The US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says Pakistan has agreed to reopen NATO supply routes to Afghanistan. The move ends a 7-month standoff after a NATO airstrike that killed 24 Pakistani soldiers.
Pakistan's change of heart follows an apology from Washington for the killings. The incident had caused a serious diplomatic rift between the two countries.
Parked up and idle. This has been the picture since last November. NATO convoys bound for Afghanistan at a standstill in Karachi. Vitally needed supplies going nowhere. Now the traffic should start moving again, thanks to one long-awaited word from Washington. Sorry. The US apologized for the killing of 24 Pakistani troops in airstrikes near the Afghan border. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton called Pakistan's foreign minister to say, "We are sorry for the losses suffered by the Pakistani military." Now Islamabad has its apology. Washington says it's time to move on.
Foreign Minister Carr and I acknowledge the mistakes that resulted in the loss of Pakistani military lives, she said. We are sorry for the losses suffered by the Pakistani military. We are committed to working closely with Pakistan and Afghanistan to prevent this from ever happening again. The statement was diplomatically sensitive. Clinton's press secretary stuck closely to the script.
I think the intent here is that we are both sorry for the losses suffered by both our countries in this fight against terrorists.
Pakistan's ambassador Sherry Raymond said she was glad the breakthrough was not part of any transaction, that she appreciates Secretary Clinton's statement and hopes that bilateral ties can move to a better place from here.
There were huge anti-American protests after the soldiers were killed. And Pakistan, already angry over the U.S. decision to hunt down Osama bin Laden without telling it first, hit back to protect its sovereignty. The cost to the United States was considerable. It had to spend an extra $100 million per month to ship goods to coalition forces through the so-called Northern Route. It was also forced to pull a small military unit out of the Shamsi air base, which it used for drone operations. After weeks of talks with the Americans, Pakistani defense and foreign policy leaders decided that reopening the border crossings was a good idea, not just to stay on good terms with Washington, but also to stay on good terms with the other 49 countries involved in the Afghan war.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Raja Pervez Ashraf said the closure of the routes was damaging ties with the US and other coalition countries. The American Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stopped short of an outright apology for the deaths, but said she'd offered sincere condolences. The incident close to the Afghan border sparked a further rift between Washington and Islamabad. Freeing up the lorries in Pakistan will also now ease costs for NATO. Sending supplies into Afghanistan from the north costs 2.5 times as much. The Pakistani routes will become even more important as more NATO troops are withdrawn.
The Islamic extremist group Pakistani Taliban criticized the agreement. Members threatened to attack U.S. convoys. NATO leaders said the agreements demonstrate strengthened cooperation between their forces and Pakistan. They signed treaties with other Central Asian countries to provide access into Afghanistan, but those roadways proved to be too costly.
U.S. officials insist, however, this was not an apology, but it was good enough for Pakistan. Those routes supply American troops with just about everything they need to survive and will be just as critical to ending the war. They're the same routes American forces will take to withdraw from Afghanistan over the next 2 years.